there, welcome to this week's episode of Health Options, the program that not only tracks government policies on health, but gives you the information you need to make informed choices about your health. Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Rabi Abdullah. Obstetric fistula is an abnormal opening that connects the female genitalia to another organ, such as the bladder, colon, or rectum. A vaginal fistula doesn't usually hurt, but it can cause some problems that need medical attention, as the condition mostly makes sufferers to become unable to control urination, also referred to as incontinence. Almost every African country, including Nigeria and other poor countries, have thousands of silent sufferers of vesicovaginal fistula. As we beam our searchlight on VVF and the Nigerian situation, on this episode of Health Options, we shall touch on the symptoms, causes, complications, prevention, as well as management of the condition. I urge you to join us on our Nature's Canal, as we have something that should interest people in their 60s. Reasons why everyone, especially those in that age group, must get into the habit of taking adequate liquids, especially water. And of course, something about the other side of water you may not know. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Health Options, and focus is on obstetric fistula and the Nigerian situation. With me in the studio to take us through the topic is Dr. Salma Ibrahim Anas, Director of Family Health Department, Federal Ministry of Health. Welcome to Health Options, Dr. Salma.
Thank you very much, Rabi.
Yeah, it's good to have you join us again.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're discussing women's health here, and particularly obstetric fistula. Can we start with that? I know it connotes so many things, not too pleasant, but let's start into what this is all about.
Thank you, Rabi, and I'm happy to be here to be talking about another problems of women's health. So obstetric fistula is one of the major and devastating public health problems that affects the health of women, especially girls that are below the age of 18. So it's an abnormality, as you said. It's an abnormal hole that penetrates from the vagina of the girl or the woman, and then it goes through the bladder, or it can go through the rectum or the anal canal. Then when there is a rupture, that is the injury, definitely there will be incontinence. And what we meant by incontinence is that lack of control. So the woman will not be, or the girl will not be able to control urine. Urine continues to pass on and on and on non-stop. The bladder cannot contain it. So as soon as the urine comes, it just continues to flow. The same thing when it is feces. So when it is the bladder that is affected, it is called the vesicovaginal fistula.
How does it occur? What causes it?
Yes, and when it is the rectum, it is the rectovaginal fistula. And this can happen, one of which can happen. Okay. But the two can also happen at the same time. So what are the causes of it? You know, as I said earlier, mainly it occurs among young people, very young girls, as a result of early marriages. Then they are exposed to early pregnancy. And this we have seen among children, girl child, between the ages of 9 to 16 years. It may also happen in a woman, any woman, as a result of complications of pregnancies. Due to obstructed prolonged labor, it can happen. Due to traditional interventions by traditional healers. When there is an obstructed labor, a woman and girl could be in labor for 3 days and above at home. So they call these traditional healers to expand so that the baby can come out. And as a result of that, because they have no knowledge of what is inside, they go in and puncture the bladder and sometimes the rectum, and both can also leak.
Okay, let's look at which one occurs most frequently in this part of the world.
The most
is it the one through childbirth, or maybe due to early marriage, or
the most common cause, not only in Nigeria but in all developing countries up to Asia, not only Africa, and particularly in Nigeria, is the one that occurs in girls, and I call them children, because most of them are less than 16 years of age, and it's due to mainly early marriages.
So meaning that their reproductive organs or
the reproductive organs are so immature,
okay.
They are exposed to early sex. As a result of early sex, they are exposed to early pregnancy. So when they come at the time of labor, and in most cases they do not have access to quality antenatal care, to quality delivery services, obstetric care, and also postnatal care. So they are at home in most of their rural communities without any access to services. So when the time of labor comes, because they are so young, so immature, they are confronted with another problem that we call the obstructed and prolonged obstructed labor. They continue to go through labor because the pelvic bone, the pelvis is so small and contracted, so baby cannot pass through the pelvis. So the girl ends up being in a very difficult situation. And at that time, the only help they can get is to bring in these traditional birth attendants and bring in traditional healers. So they go in and do what is described in the northern part of Nigeria as gishiri cut. So gishiri cut, they go into the vaginal wall and cut with the intention of expanding the birth canal so that the baby can come
wow.
up. So you can imagine, Rabi, it's very devastating. And they end up puncturing the bladder or puncturing the uterus, and the woman continues to leak. And in most cases, you will find that even the baby comes out not alive. It's a stillbirth. So it's a double jeopardy. Baby is not saved, and mother is exposed to a trauma all her life. And this is not just physical trauma, Rabi. It is both physical and psychological. It has an impact. You can imagine leakage of urine non-stop.
Those are the complications.
Those are the complications.
What about management now?
So the good news, we give glory to Almighty God, to experts. It's preventable almost 100%, because if you don't expose a girl to early pregnancy,
yes,
and then the problems and complications of delivery, it means you have prevented it. So girls should be in school. Then if it happens, the victims, the sufferers of it, once they have access, that is, fistula has happened. It has happened, but we can prevent it from happening by access to delivery by skilled birth attendants, that is nurses, midwives, in some cases doctors themselves, or trained community health extension workers. So during the delivery of the baby, they take a lot of precautions, which sometimes could also lead to cesarean section. So these are ways to prevent it. But then when fistula happens, it is still not the end of life. There are options, because the problem it can be resolved. Surgery can take place. It can be repaired successfully, especially if it is uncomplicated. And even when it is complicated, there are experts that can perform surgeries to repair it.
How long does it normally take for the sufferer to get back, on her feet again?
We ask them to do so immediately. And then when they get, the earlier you come, early access to prompt treatment and management, it gives you a better success to the outcome of your surgery. Then if it takes long, it becomes more complicated. Fibrous tissues are bound to happen, and then it requires more complicated plastic surgery, if I may call it that way. So as soon as they come, but the problem is coming at the right time. So as soon as they come, they will have access to care, to very good care, where it will be repaired. And they give them interval of time to heal, because it's a tissue. But in most cases,
is it usually done free of charge?
It's supposed to be done free of charge. I'm glad to mention that in Nigeria, because part of the commitment to ensure that we have access to quality reproductive, maternal, newborn, and child health services, which is the gateway again towards achieving the universal health care coverage, leaving no one behind. And these girls, as you know, Rabi, they are vulnerable girls. They are girls that belong to the class that we describe, the poorest of the poor. Rural communities. They are living in rural communities. Most of them are uneducated. Most of them are poor. They don't have any means of livelihood. So you can imagine they cannot even pay for services, even when services are available. So what the federal government of Nigeria has done through the Federal Ministry of Health at the national and state level is to establish the treatment centers and the management centers. At the moment, we have 3 management centers that have been established by the federal government. One in Ebonyi, Abakaliki. We also have one in Ningi, Bauchi State, and we also have a center in Katsina. In addition to this, we also have planned in the pipeline to open additional 3 centers to enable us have at least 1 in each of the 6 geopolitical zones. Okay. But in addition to the federal centers, a lot has been happening at the sub-national levels. Okay. The state, I most appreciate the efforts of the wives of the governors at the state level. For instance, just 2 days ago, the governor of Niger State, Dr. Mrs. Bello, set up a new center.
No, that's the wife of the governor, I'm sure you meant.
The wife of the governor, yes, the wife of the governor, who is also our very good colleague, okay. You know, and we really appreciate her effort. She opened a center in Kontagora, which also Niger, we still have high burden of fistula. So this was launched just a few days ago, and it is a state-of-the-art center also that will provide care. So this is efforts of state government, you know, led by the wife of the governor herself. Okay. And we have a similar center in Sokoto State, which is also has been there for quite a very long time and is supported by the state government. And not only centers, you know, in health, what our focus now is to ensure integration of services. So when we say center, we are not only promoting standalone centers, but we are also promoting integration of services within existing facilities. So this is to say that even within our existing health facilities, like tertiary facilities, teaching hospitals and some state specialist hospitals, the repairs, the management of fistula still happens. And then capacities have been developed, and we continue to develop such capacities. So services are still being provided within existing tertiary health institutions.
Okay, I don't know. Time it was when it has only been a public health issue, but I remember that time it was when it was really an issue of serious concern. We experiencing a decline or an increase at the moment?
Honestly speaking, Rabi, we are not experiencing a decline.
Really?
Yes, it's just that the focus, the action on it, because it's mainly in the past supported by donor partners. UNFPA is a key partner that supports it. So we still need to put a lot of attention and focus on it. And this is part of why we're here, where we set aside globally the 23rd of May every year to commemorate obstetric fistula globally in the world. Just like you said, is it declining? Most people have the impression that it is declining. It is a silent killer, public health problems that affects women and girls. And as I said, the categories of these girls are mainly poor of the poorest, marginalized, unsecured girls, the voiceless. So who is going to talk for them? So it's hidden because it is seen as a shame. Yeah. The girls that are affected are so discriminated, not only by their immediate families. In fact, the immediate outcome is abandonment by the husband. That is the first thing that they are confronted with.
Quite sad.
And once they are abandoned and ejected out of their matrimonial homes, they move to their family homes. And within the families, they are also ejected. So you find most of these girls are in hiding. Some of them are on the street begging. You know, Rabi, I like to share that experience. When I was working in this area of reproductive health, that time I was assistant country rep working with UNFPA in Nigeria. We did a lot of work in Katsina, Kano, and Zaria. And through community mobilizers, using one of the foundation, Fistula Foundation, we were able to identify a woman, a 63-year-old woman, who had obstetric fistula, to be specific, vaginal fistula and rectovaginal combined, since she was at the age of about 11 to 12 years.
Oh my
and
goodness.
That was her first pregnancy.
And she had lived with that for so many years.
If you subtract 11 to 12 out of 63 years of her life,
that's about 40 something.
She lived with it all her life. And she was ejected out of her matrimonial home. She was abandoned by her family. She was found on the street of Kano, begging. So we took this woman. That is the interesting story. We took her to the center. It was supported by the Federal Ministry of Health, Katsina State Government, and also UNFP. She underwent surgery, and she was successfully repaired.
And got back her groove.
Wow. But you know, this woman have suffered not only physical trauma, but psychological trauma throughout her life.
If you are to speak to those who should really be at the forefront of making sure that young girls don't come with this kind of, or find themselves in this unfortunate situation, whom will you start with?
So, Rabi, I think for me, I will start with our community leaders. And I will repeat our traditional institutions, our religious leaders. Because the major underlying causes of obstetric fistula is early marriage. So we have to stop completely early marriages. Our girls must go to school. We have policies, we have legislation around it, but who enforces it? We have to have the communities involved, and efforts have been on. They have to understand the risk involved in early marriage. So this has to stop the practice. At least by the age of 18, that is the minimum age that you can expose the human body.
Anything below that is immaturity.
Below 18 years is immature.
Immaturity.
The children are growing. This is the age that they are growing up to at least the age of 18 years. So this is the minimum age that we will advocate. So there is need for intensive advocacy campaign to target these community and traditional institutions, because they know what is happening, so that they understand what is happening within their domain, and they should be able to avert it from occurring. So we've developed a lot of strategic plans. We've developed a lot of behavior change communication strategies, targeting religious leaders, targeting community leaders. But I mean, the willingness also have to come from communities, so that we can jointly work together to ensure that at least we eliminate completely obstetric fistula in the world, especially in Nigeria.
You know, in the course of my research, I came across a lot of gory images of the condition, and my God, it was just not something, you know, one should look forward to in any way. So, so many silent sufferers out there. What will you be saying to such people, the ones that are still out there without a voice?
Yeah. So what we do, because we don't work alone as government, we work with civil society organizations and community organizations and different women groups. So what we do is an active identification. Because they are not aware, they are ignorant, they don't even know that they can access services and they can be treated for it. So we work along with these community people, civil society organizations, so that they do the awareness creation in communities and do active identification of sufferers or victims of obstetric fistula, and then link them up to the nearest health facilities, because the treatment, as we said, is free, is at no cost, because we acknowledge that these are groups of people that cannot afford to pay for such services. So I think with that, we are making a lot of headway, and then with the support also of the state government supporting the federal to establish new centers, I think with all those collective efforts put together, we should be able to completely eliminate. This has been eliminated in developed countries. You know, so they have forgotten about what is fistula.
So there's no reason why a country like Nigeria should be left behind in the elimination of BVF, obstetric fistula.
There is no reason why we should be left behind and leaving those young women and girls behind.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Salma Ibrahim, and as for sharing your thoughts on this very, very interesting public health issue with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dehydration, which occurs due to lack of adequate liquids consumption, may cause abrupt mental confusion, especially in the elderly. A drop in blood pressure, chest pain, coma, and even death. Check out the place of water in all of these and other aspects of water that should interest you as we go over to our nature scanner.
Water for healthy living. You see, because the human body is largely made up of water compared to other ingredients of life. An adult man is made up of about 60% water, and the human blood, for example, is made up of about 90% water, and so water is essential. In fact, scientifically, we say that water is the most important nutrient in life. We call it nutrient, and there are scientific reasons and scientific, evidences to arriving at this conclusion. So it hydrates the entire system because the entire human body needs water. All the organs and cells of man needs water, from the brain to the teeth. And in fact, we say that the brain has about 80 to 85% water, just like blood and the heart, and then the part of the body that has the lowest proportion or percentage of water is the teeth and the bony areas of the system. And water has a lot of benefit apart from what we know naturally, by way of experience and use of water. It's been proven scientifically that without water it will be difficult for man to survive. In fact, you can live longer on water than you will live on food. If you were to live, if there was no water, you will die quicker than if there was no food. So if you have water and you don't have food, you can actually survive for a long time. Water has a lot of role to play in the human metabolic system. When we say metabolic system, that's what keeps man alive. That's what keeps man alive. So that you live, that you walk around, that you go to your offices, that you do exercises, that you do your sports, that you do one thing or the other, that you are in the vehicle up and down, or you are flying, or you are doing whatever, your daily activities that you are able to do comfortably, is because you are on water. Without water, you will not be able to do those things, because water is responsible for the metabolic activities of your system. Take, for example, your joints. When, for those of us who drive vehicles, you know what we call the shock absorber and the role that shock absorber plays in your vehicle, ensuring that joints are don't break up in your vehicles, proper lubrication. The same way those oils, those grease, the same roles they perform in those vehicles is the role that water performs in the human body. So for our joints, ensures lubrication of the joints and providing the shock absorbing mechanism for our joints and our bony areas of our body to work well.
This is our show for this week. A quick reminder that you can go to our YouTube channel to watch the upload of these and other episodes of the program. Email us for your comments and contributions at healthoptions@nta.gov.ng. Continue to stay safe by observing all the COVID-19 safety protocols. I remain yours, Rabi Abdullah. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again.